Okay, so the first thing you want to do is grab your ruler, and you know the diameter of your cake. Mine is a 6-inch cake. So you have your 6-inch of diameter. Then you're going to measure your height. Mine is 4. So when we roll out our fondant, we want 4 plus 6 plus 4. So you want to have a 14-inch diameter. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. So here's my fondant. I chose blue so that you could see it more clearly. Now, with fondant, the secret is kneading it. The more you knead it, the more pliable it will be, and also the less cracks you will have on your cake. Now, I usually dust my surface with cornstarch and not powdered sugar. Why? Because powdered sugar is actually one of the ingredients in fondant, and it just absorbs right back into it, and it doesn't really help with the stickiness. Okay. So once I'm happy with the fondant, I'm going to kind of flush out the uneven lines. See, mine's already sticking to my table, so I'm going to add more cornstarch. Don't worry about the cornstarch on the fondant, you can clean that off later. Okay, so with my roller, I'm going to start slowly rolling. Now if you're a beginner, you might want to use the little measuring tools that come with the fondant to do an even thickness, but I've always done mine without it. So I'll always rotate your fondant, lifting from the center a little to make sure that it doesn't stick to the table. Okay, so I rolled mine a little uneven, but I know that it's going to work. But for the newbies out there, always take your ruler, just go ahead and measure it. So over here I have 12 and 15. I have 17. And then over here I'll also have it covered. So I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to cover my cake. Now what I do is I grab the rolling pin and I start rolling it on here, and then I grab my cake. You're gonna just drape it across. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is start smoothing out the top. You want to push out the air bubbles as much as possible from underneath this fondant. Okay. Now, I am a huge fan of sharp edges. So what I do is I quickly just mush the top maybe like a 1/4 of an inch down to prevent this from breaking later. And then using the skirt to guide you, you're going to start placing the fondant, rotating it ever so often. Some people use a turntable. I find it's been easier to do this without it. So again, turn the cake. Alright, so here's a quick tip. If you're going to cover your board with fondant and you want to use the same color, usually, we cover the cakes with white, you could just cut your skirt along the cake board here because you've already covered it, instead of trimming it along the cake and then covering the board. So here's my favorite part. I'm going to keep the skirt on for this part. So now I'm going to use 2 smoothers. This is a trick that as you get better with fondant, you're going to like it. So I get the top one, I put the flat edge pointing out, and then with the other one, I put this one up against the cake. And with this one, I'm pushing against the cake, and this one, I'm doing nothing. I'm just kind of pinching it towards here. So when you do this, you start forming sharp edges. So the rest of the cake, I'm going to smooth out as you've been normally taught. See, and over here up top, I could already tell that I didn't squeeze out the air as much as I should have, which is perfect because now I can show you how I get rid of air. Now I'm going to cut around. I go really close to the border, and I just start slicing. A turntable here would be useful, but again, I'm fine doing it without. So my cake obviously shifted. And I don't usually work on a cake board like this. I'm doing it for the tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and push down the extra fondant. See how it still collects? Trim off that excess. So it takes a lot, it's like a little dance, you know. You gotta play with the fondant. So as you can see, I've been doing this for years and I still do things like this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make some more sharp corners because I want you to see the difference. So over here I could feel an air bubble. Now I always put a little pin needle in my apron, and what I do is I just prick a tiny hole and I squeeze out the air. Other side. Okay, so here is the sharp corner. Bring this closer to the camera. Here's a sharp edge that I did, and here is a rounded edge. Now, a couple of you have asked me about bulging, and as you can see, I had a bulge right here. So, the culprit here is an air bubble. You want to pop that with a little tiny pin, just like this actually. Just a tiny little prick, and push out the air. And problem solved.